Yo, yo, yo. What's up, everybody? My name is Jeremy Schumacher. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist. I'm the Jer from Wellness with Jer. Thanks for joining me on the internet today. As a ADHDer with executive dysfunction who struggles with time, don't like when end of the year wrap-ups come out at like the end of November. Because, like, what if the best thing you've seen all year happens in December? Maybe that's the autistic part of my brain. The ADHD part of my brain is like, that stretches it out too much. Stop putting Christmas stuff up after Halloween. It's just like, let us exist in a time and place and experience the present moment. Why do we stop rushing to the next thing all the time? And in my distaste for early end of the year wrap-ups, I've likely mistimed when this video will actually go out, which might be 2026. But I feel like that is a legitimate time to look back at 2025 and say, here are the things I liked the most. These are not necessarily the things that I think were the best. These are the things that stuck with me the most. These are all the things that I liked the best, and I think they were done the best. These are my favorites, and I don't have to defend them. It's the internet. I'm allowed to have opinions. These are the things that definitely stuck with me the most in the year. These are the things that I think I talked to other people the most. Oddly, none of them I've done reviews of on my channel. I think I'm a little protective of what I actually talk about on the internet because I don't want to have random internet weirdos say things that make me upset about the things that I love. So, usually if I'm reviewing something, it's because like I engage with it in order to review it. But I'm still a person, and sometimes I just like shit because it's likable. That is not the case this year. Everything that I'm about to talk about is dark. I think in my own process of existing as a human, I am at a point where healing doesn't just mean soothing. And I think existing in the world as is and promoting wellness, it's wellness with Jer, right? While not acknowledging the horrors and the grief, it's the hardship is disingenuous. And so all of the things that are my favorite are either a little tough to wrestle with or unwieldy, or they don't have happy endings. Because I think that's life. I don't know. That's always been me. I'm somebody who enjoys playing a board game for 8 hours and then everybody dies at the end and we don't win. Like, that's the best. It's about the experience, not the ending. We don't get happy endings very often. Now there is, each of these things are loosely related thematically in the sense that it's like, it's about existing. It's not a happy narrative, or it's not an easy to understand snapshot. It's not a 30-second reel. It is nuanced and there's depth to it. And they're all different in sort of unique different ways. I picked a book, a movie, and an album from 2025 to talk about, and they're different. And I think thematically it's grief. It's sitting with grief and not needing to soothe it, not needing to rush through it, not needing to get over it in order to be productive, but rather just existing in fucked up times. And if that doesn't summarize 2025, I don't know what does. So let's start with the album. Easily the album I talked about the most this year. I hate the streaming wrap-ups because I listen to analog music. And not in like a hipster way, just in like, I have a record player in my office. So what did I listen to the most this year? Well, probably Alligator by The National or Animals by Pink Floyd, because I think they're the most therapy-friendly albums. They just are nice as background music, or they can stimulate conversation, and they time well for a therapist to switch halfway through the session. So that doesn't show up in my streaming service year-end wrap-up. But a lot of albums I listen to personally when I'm in the office doing paperwork or in between clients or at home on the record player at home because they're not great for therapy. Either the auditory input is distracting or I have a hard time not listening to them, which still happens with animals from time to time. Um, you hear a Dave Gilmour solo in the background and you're probably going to listen. So, but this is the album that I went out of my way to listen to the whole thing the most often. A few of the songs got a lot of play on repeat on various playlists for my streaming services, but this is the physical album that, not for therapy reasons, not because it made easy listening in the background, but because I wanted to listen to it, I put on the most. And it's the album I recommended to the most people. It's the lyrics I talked about the most in other places. Um, so without further ado, I don't know, it's gonna show up in my lighting. This is Infinity Knives and Brian Eno's A City Drowned in God's Black Tears. Um, Infinity Knives and Brian Eno's came to Milwaukee, and I didn't get tickets early enough, and they sold out their show, and so I missed them. And I loved this album. And if you slept on this album, what a joy you're in for. But like, if you don't know Infinity Knives and Brian Eno's, that means you slept on 2022's King Cobra, which is a fantastic album, which I have talked about on my channel before and done a few reviews off of this song. Easily for me, the lyric of the year is on this album, which is "Genocide is American as apple pie, baseball and mass shootings." Um, that's on the first song on the album. It just sort of comes out and punches you in the mouth. I really like listening to this album and King Cobra, the 2022 album, together. They both sort of start with like these lo-fi, not hip hop sounding songs, and end with a song like that, and I sort of view those as like bookends to the albums. I don't know if that's how you're supposed to do it. That's just what my brain did with it. Beneath the Willow's Leaves and then Two-Headed Buffalo. And those are not like hip hop songs, like lo-fi, sort of 90s vibe-esque. But yeah, I mean, The Iron Wall. I set the album down too far. The Iron Wall just comes out and like punches you in the mouth, and it's like, if you're wondering where I think actual leftists stand on political issues, it's this song. It's not Democrat or Republican. It's like, no, they all suck to varying degrees, but like, yes, there's no actual representation in this country. Genocide is bad, and America's been the bad guy throughout history, and it's still like a very listenable song. It's a bop, as the kids would say, which is really, really good. But like the whole album, one of the things I like about this pairing, collaboration between these two artists is Brian Eno's has fantastic lyrics and wonderful delivery that like you sing along to and you crank up in the car, and you know what I think good angry music should be. And then Infinity Knives will throw in like a classical sounding Travoga on this song, is like out of an opera or something. It's just all over the place. Baggy, Softback Shorty are kind of like your hip hop talking about a girlfriend in the city. Sometimes Papi Chulo is another song that's about sort of the time and place. Everyone I Love is Depressed is really good, about mental health and wanting to die. And the chorus comes in and says, "Don't kill yourself because we love you too much," but struggling with why anyone would love you that much. And then Two-Headed Buffalo is again like this lo-fi sort of 90s song by Boatwater, which I think is just their nod to like other Baltimore area musicians. If Infinity Knives and Brian Eno's ever do anything with Dan Deacon, I'll probably lose my mind. And if you don't know who I'm talking about in any of this, like, yeah, I don't know. I'm truly don't like being called a hipster, but I do have an eclectic taste in music. It's not like I know everything. It's not necessarily an extensive knowledge of music, but it is eclectic. Um, but they sort of, I don't think as a cover, I think they probably re-recorded it knowing how Infinity Knives does music. So I don't think that they're covering it, but yeah, it ends with like this sort of lo-fi thing. And I want to say the album is all over the place, but it works. It comes together in sort of a cohesive sense where like you go on a journey while you're listening to the album, and it doesn't pull any punches. I think I would love like I would love, I don't know, Beyonce or Taylor Swift. Obviously, it's not going to be Taylor Swift, Rihanna. I would love someone who has clout and isn't going to get canceled for having some of these takes to have this stance, right? As much as Kendrick can go out and call Drake a pedophile, he didn't call the president a pedophile. Well, he could have. I think he would. But again, like I don't know. There's no popular music that really captures how I feel about the world. Um, a smaller band, a collaborative group that maybe a ton of people haven't heard of. And speaking to how I feel, and like as an ADHDer and as somebody who does listen to a lot of types of music, like this album is just really good from start to finish in the lyricism, and again, you're just going on a journey, and it's not easy to sort of summarize. Like it's a hip hop album, and there are not it's not exclusively hip hop songs on the album. And I think that's really fun, and not just in sort of like the offhand 1 minute skit, like full songs that are just different genres of music coming in. And so in another life I'd be a pro wrestler, but in another life I would be, I don't know, the movie director. It would pick out the songs for a movie, and Infinity Knives and Brian Eno's would be regular play. I think soundtrack, like this album sounds like a soundtrack to a movie because it's covering sort of this journey, and you can envision these different scenes or these different parts of your life where you're really resonating with one song or another. Because again, there's this sort of shallow "I'm hitting on a girl" song, and then there's this operatic sort of arrangement, and then there's "Everyone I Love Is Depressed," and the protest song of the Iron Wall. It covers a lot of different things, and it delivers for all of them. And some people, I think Anthony Fitano, the big movie, the big music reviewer on YouTube, did a review of this album, and like that's a big deal, I think, for musical artists, which is very cool. But like he didn't like that it ended with Two-Headed Buffalo. But like again, I think it works in context of this album that is sort of defying classification, and is just taking you on a trip and enjoying the ride. And yeah, it doesn't necessarily, it's enjoyable in the sense that you go on this journey and all the songs are really good, but it's not like happy ending or like easy. There's this like sort of lost nostalgia that it ends on. So love the album. I think the Iron Wall is the standout on the album. I think Everyone I Love Is Depressed is really good. I liked Two-Headed Buffalo. It's on my songs that make you sad playlist. I'm from Milwaukee, and here our public radio station is 88.9 Radio Milwaukee, and they do the 5 o'clock shadow where they play one song and then the cover. So I like to listen to an original song and then the cover. And so listening to the original by Boatwater works really well, and listening to the cover. So just over and over, this album delivers. Lots of very repeatable songs. I'll put on a playlist, lots of lyrics that are sort of earworms that get stuck in your head, lots of different musical aspects that also will get stuck in your head. So really great album. I told everybody I'm on a therapy call monthly with a bunch of therapists from around the world, and I'm by far the youngest person on the call, and a bunch of the old heads on there. I was like, I don't care if you don't listen to hip hop, go listen to this song, go listen to this album. So I've been telling everybody to listen to that album, and now I've told you, the internet. I think let's go to the movie that stuck with me the most throughout the year next, and we'll save the one that's maybe a little hopeful, a little optimistic for the last I don't know if this will show up because I have my green screen on behind me, right? But movie that stuck with me the most is Vulcan Isadora. I saw Vulcan Isadora at the Milwaukee Film Fest 2025. Shout out to just Milwaukee culture. Name dropped Radio Milwaukee and the Milwaukee Film Fest. Milwaukee Film Fest is actually really good. I mean, you're talking, you think about like Tribeca or the Toronto Film Fest or whatever. The Milwaukee Film Fest is very good. It is a couple weeks long of really great films. I think I saw 5 or 6 films this year at the film festival. Peacock, which is a German film, was the other standout for me personally that I really liked at the film festival. I think I gave Vulcan Isadora and Peacock 5 stars. And not to be like bougie and be like, oh, film fest, I see a bunch of foreign films. Like, again, Milwaukee is super awesome. The art museum here is really great, and the film festival here is really great. We have 200-year-old theaters owned by Milwaukee Film that are like a few blocks away. And so the film fest is really great that you can go from theater to theater and sort of be in these historic settings. Anyway, Vulcan Isadora is not a happy film. It's bleak. There's not a happy ending. It is, I don't know, metal slacker film. I think I've seen it reviewed as. And it doesn't fit sort of the other two, Infinity Night's Brian Eno's and the book author I'm going to get to are coming from marginalized communities, talking about the experience and how collapse is maybe painful for everyone, but they see it as necessary because American society wasn't built with them in mind. And so tearing it down makes sense. Vulcan Isadora is about 2 white dudes, and they're also dealing with the collapse of society, but not coming from the marginalized perspective, coming from maybe a more privileged perspective and saying the world is still left them behind. Again, society wasn't meant for people of low means. They're lower income white dudes who are definitely privileged in society and also are not thriving. And looking at what happens when society leaves you behind. And I think that's what was compelling about this film. I'm not going to do a full spoiler review here, but some big things happen in the film on this journey with these 2 dudes who are looking to drop out from life, or from society at least. And it's compelling because the movie doesn't end at the climax of the film. The movie continues to go on, not in a boring way, but we're left with the fallout, and it doesn't matter. And it's nihilistic, but it's sad. Again, I think this movie captured what a lot of incels, white dudes online wants to complain about, but it's not incel coded. One of them has a kid. Like we know they're not incels in that sense, but they're dropping out from society because they feel left behind, but because society is not engaging with them, even when they try and play by the rules, when they try and follow society's rules, society is not engaging with them. And so it's really interesting to see somebody sort of drop out from society and then the fallout from that as this life altering experience happens, and like it doesn't fucking matter still. And it's a very sad film. It's just bleak. It's 2 guys tromping through the woods in Michigan to disengage with life. Arguably the funniest scene from a movie I've seen in a long time is a 40-year-old balding white dude breaking open glow sticks, pouring the glow stick liquid on his chest while singing along to a Godsmack song. It's just unhinged. It is laugh out loud funny and also will stick with you after you watch it. I ordered it on Blu-ray because it's not streaming anywhere and I want to own it forever. And I viewed the collapse of society as being not having access to streaming services at some point. So I went out of my way to buy a physical copy because it's so good and very few people have seen it. And I always want to talk to people about it. I wanted Milwaukee Film to do their Cinebuds podcast about it, and that didn't happen. Christopher Pollard calling you out. But yeah, this was like a 9:15 showing at the film festival, just a bunch of sickos late at night on a film festival night watching this black, I don't know, they call it black comedy, this bleak, dark, I don't know, it's laugh out loud funny, but also it sticks with you. And again, I think it was compelling because it stuck with the story. It wasn't an easy ending to the film. There was no resolution. It all just kind of hangs there. It is the sequel to Buzzard, which is streaming, I believe. I think on Tubi, maybe it's one of those free services, um, which I've not seen. And again, I do this weird thing where I sort of protect things that I love, where I don't always engage with them. I put off finishing a few books this year just because I didn't want them to end. But I haven't watched Buzzard yet. But I will at some point. I'm still sitting with Vulcan Isadora, and the film festival is like in March. So it stuck with me for 9 months, and I haven't had a ton of people to talk to. I might do a full review of it. We'll see. As I'm doing this like end of the year wrap up, I'm like, I should do full reviews of these things. But yeah, Vulcan Isadora was really good. And again, I saw a lot of movies this year that other people liked, and I'm sort of contrarian by nature, but also not all of them landed for me. One Battle After Another was good. I didn't think it was great. I just saw Marty Supreme, which again, like, was why you wait till the end of the year to see things. That came out Christmas Day, 12, 25, 25, and your end of the year wrap ups came out in late November. Come on. But I didn't like Marty Supreme. Spoiler alert. I thought it was worse than Uncut Gems, but was the same story, just worse, about ping pong instead of jewelry. But where was I going with that? Spoilers for the Marty Supreme review that I'll record at some point. Yeah, Vulcan Isadora stuck with me, and Peacock was really good too. And I that's a German film. I don't know. But again, the movies that I sort of liked this year were not necessarily easy or like had happy endings. Because again, I think that feels really disingenuous. And if we're going for escapism with a movie, then fine. Again, I liked the Superman movie that came out this year. The new James Gunn led era at DC, I thought was good and like hopeful, right? Like, but you sort of have to do the classic good versus evil for hopeful. And a lot of films went for moral ambiguity, but didn't really like land. This movie, Vulcan Isadora, was morally ambiguous, but like felt heavy of like, yeah, I don't know, why are we going to work when there's like multiple genocides going on? Why are we engaging in capitalism when there's, 100 people in America who own more wealth than half of Americans? Like, that's dumb. The system's obviously broken. Why are we doing that? And like Vulcan Isadora carried that. And so again, while it maybe was going for some moral ambiguity, like there was a message involved. And I think some of those other movies were trying to be morally ambiguous in the way that masks storytelling, but didn't stick any sort of coherent message. And so, yeah, if you've not seen Vulcan Isadora, watch it. I will say this is going at the level or right under Requiem for a Dream, which is going to be like horrific films that I watch with people because I think they're really well done. And if other people haven't seen them, I will sort of shepherd them into seeing this film that will not make you feel good at the end of it. I think Vulcan Isadora is slotted in there, which is high praise for me coming in at for Requiem for a Dream. And so we have two morally complex, not happy ending, no easy resolution media items: Vulcan Isadora and A City Drowned in God's Black Tears. So the book that I'm reviewing for the end of the year, my favorite book, the book that easily I talked to the most people about, it sat on my coffee table for about a month, which is a way that I sneak in things I think my clients should check out, which is mostly comic books. Mostly comic books, is occasionally a therapy related thing, but usually it's comic books. But this book snuck onto my coffee table and stayed there for a good long while because I talked to everybody about it. The book that I liked the most this year was, I gotta cover myself up, so I go, Forest Euphoria. Forest Euphoria by Patricia, I didn't practice how to say this name several times. I'm just so bad at names. Patricia Onaniwu Kashian, um, Forest Euphoria, The Abounding Queerness of Nature. Um, I mean, on that title alone, I was pretty hooked. Robin Wall Kimmerer wrote glowingly about it, author of Braiding Sweetgrass. Um, so yeah, I'm hooked. And what I didn't expect was this book to just cover everything pretty much that I am enamored with, which is nature. Big win. I love nature. I like being outside. I like engaging with nature and I like learning things. Lots of knowledge. I learned about animals that I was unfamiliar with, or moss, or slugs, all sorts of things I learned reading this book. But this book is also about religious trauma. This book is about mental health and late stage diagnosis for neurodivergence. And yeah, if you're like, hey, late diagnosed ADHD, possibly ASD, I need to stop diagnosing people who are not my clients with autism. Um, Queerness and religious trauma. Yeah, sign me up. Those things are my jam. My specialties, as listed professionally anywhere, are romantic relationships, 'cause I'm a licensed marriage family therapist, uh, late diagnosed ADHD, ASD, and religious trauma, also sports performance. But um, this book did not have sports performance in it. But yeah, this stuff was all the stuff that I love working with, and the trauma sneaks up on you in a way that, like, in real life, that also happens. And again, I think the thing that I like about this book, for trigger warning for sexual trauma, was like it's just in the middle of the chapter, and then all of a sudden you're getting this horrific shit, and then the book just continues. And you're like, but what about that horrific shit that just happened? And like that's trauma, right? And as the book continues, the author uses various animals or species, things in nature that she was learning about or engaging with, and then as she goes through these different life stages. And so the book really sort of, we see where the trauma stays with her, and we see where nature serves as this sort of grounding, healing thing. And it's lovely. Again, the book's called Forest Euphoria, and um that euphoria of being in the forest, that nature doesn't care, but like that's lovely and comforting, that when the collapse happens, there'll still be mushrooms out there, and like that's nice. And not the nihilism of Vulcan Isadora, but not necessarily like the happy ending from like the human perspective, but like that there might still be crows flying around and picking at our bones, and like that's nice because crows are awesome. And so this book really sort of comes in from that perspective, which is not one that's like, I'm a therapist and I do think things can get better, and I'm skeptical they will until we see evidence of that. And so it's not like pro death. It's not like woohoo human suffering. It's not a celebration of the darkness, but it's not like capitalism will save us. It's not necessarily hopeful. It's sort of acknowledging that like shit's bad because we've made it bad and we've known it's been bad for a while. And so if you like don't vibe with that, like me either, and here's my experience with coming to terms with that. And so it's just a book that like really resonated, and not from a therapy speak sort of way, because like everything in this book I super jived with. And it's written about somebody who's nerdy about mushrooms and spores and fungi and slimy slithery things. And again, like that's when professionals aren't up their own asses about how great mental health is and why getting your side E makes you extra special in the world. When psychologists and therapists and other mental health professionals can get out of their own way, like, right, we're studying biology, we're studying humans interacting with their environment. And so this book decenters the human experience, although the author's experience is the through line in the plot, but centers other species and other things in nature. And like yeah, it really works to reflect our experience in this dumpster fire of a timeline. And there's hope, but I think anybody who works in sort of like nature-based things in ecology knows there's a polycrisis going on in our world, and climate change and all the other stuff, the rise of AI and depleting our water sources so that we can have to Google less things. I don't know. Um, that's all in there, and that like people are bad to each other. That's in there, and that finding people who aren't bad is great, but sometimes you just want to go in the woods and be by yourself, and that's fine. And then like you're Vulcan Isadora and you're walking through the woods, and that's fine. And yeah, I don't know. I wanted to have like a clever theme, but there wasn't one. It's sort of existing and wanting to shout about things and wanting to grieve and be sad, and like that is okay. We don't need to resolve that. That's accurate. It's valid. That is your brain working correctly. So I struggle to say Forest Euphoria was my favorite book of the year. It was definitely the book that I talked to the most people about. I mean, Stephen Erickson, author of Malazan, Book of the Fallen, had a new book come out, No Life Forsaken, and I love that, obviously. Um, Vulcan Isadora, again, like it was the movie that stuck with me the most. And I've rewatched Superman. I haven't rewatched Vulcan Isadora yet. I've talked to a lot of people about the things I liked and didn't like about one battle after another, and so like there's some other stuff that's really good. Sinners was also fantastic. Like really good year for movies, honestly. As somebody who has a film membership to go to the Milwaukee Film Festival and to see the member screenings there. There was a really good Irish film I saw this year, and I'm not like pretentious. I also have a membership to Marcus Movies because sometimes it's nice to see movies in the reclining chairs. I really liked Begonia this year, so really good year. Like again, my favorite things I sort of encapsulate as the things that stuck with me most and things I talk to other people about. If you haven't read any Malazan, Book of the Fallen, you should. It's great, and also you're not going to pick up the second book in a trilogy that isn't finished yet. I do think you can see Vulcan Isadora without seeing Buzzard. That's how I saw it. It works really well as a standalone. And obviously A City Drowned in God's Black Tears, standalone album, but I think it pairs really well with the 22 album King Cobra. So lots of extra stuff. Very good year for media to engage with. Lots of great music came out this year. Florence and the Machine's new album was really good. I didn't prepare a lineup for other things. And we're at 33 minutes, so I certainly can't get into all the great pro wrestling that happened this year. But AEW was, I mean, I don't know that they had a pay per view that missed, but just banger after banger match, too. Pretty much every pay per view. Anything Will Ospreay wrestled in this year was fantastic. So, lots of really cool stuff. Again, like as I'm Team Collapse and I don't want to be a downer, and I talked about these things that are my favorite things, and they're sort of a little bit of downers, but like, man, there's great art, fantastic artists doing fantastic artwork, and really wonderful things to enjoy and new communities to find and engage with throughout these things. And there's a lot of like joy and happiness in that. And if you're sort of somebody like me, then there's joy and happiness in finding something that's kind of dark and bleak and macabre sometimes, and that can be lovely too. Not everything needs to have a happy ending to be beautiful. 2025, not a happy ending, still beautiful. Yeah, that's what I got for us today. End of the year, my end of the year wrap up that'll come out in January. Everybody's feeling hopeful and optimistic, and I'm a cynical optimist. Skeptical. The comment section is open. Drop down. Let me know what else you would like me to review. If you nerded out about any of these things and want me to do a full review, I'm certainly open to all of that. I probably should do a review of Everyone I Love Is Depressed. Vulcan Isadora probably needs to be talked about, where I can talk about the spoilers also, but I want people to watch it, not knowing what happens. Um, yeah, and Forest Euphoria is also probably worthwhile. I'll probably try and get the author on the podcast, is what will happen there. So these were my favorite things from 2025. Drop down in the comments, let me know what your favorite things were. We can maybe chat about them if we nerd out together. And I will have more reviews, different reviews, if you tell me what you want me to review. Like, subscribe to all those YouTube things. Appreciate it. I don't know. That's what I got. Take care of yourself. Take care of somebody else. Peace.